Hello there, Drew Hanish of Whiskey Lore, and time for another whiskey tasting. And today I am doing a tasting of a whiskey that I've wanted to do a tasting of for a awful long time. It is a whiskey that is from one of the smallest distilleries in Scotland. It's been around for 198 years, and it's a distillery that I've always heard very interesting things about. Now, when I went to Scotland, I could have gone to Edradour, but I did not. I ended up going to Blair Athol because they were part of Diageo and they had scheduled tours, and I wasn't sure what I was going to go through. It was my first day of driving up into the Highlands, and so I wasn't quite sure what to prepare for. Plus, I didn't have a lot of time because I had a scheduled tour at Dalwhinnie, and so I didn't want to blow everything by hunting around and trying to find, and I just passed by Blair Athol, which is a great distillery visit anyway. Really enjoyed that, and so I didn't get to go to Edradour. But as you're driving up the mountain, there it is. Unfortunately, they don't do tours anymore. So, kind of sad, and so it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity, but I've wanted to taste the spirit for a long time. So I heard that there was some probably about 20 miles from here. So I drove that 20 miles just to buy this bottle. And when I got it home and pulled it out of the tin, I almost fell over. Look at that. That's a Scotch. Look at the color on that. That is a 10-year-old 43. This is not a barrel proof. Looks like something out of Texas. Look at that. Holy cow. That's Coca-Cola there, folks. And this is aged in bourbon barrels and sherry barrels, Oloroso sherry barrels. Well, I gotta say, I think it probably, unless they're blending barrels together, that may be taking a bourbon barrel and a Oloroso sherry barrel and blending them together. Or maybe they are aging them first in the bourbon barrel for like 5 minutes and then spending 10 years in the Oloroso sherry barrel. Because look at that. And they say, now this is the thing, they say on the bottle that they do not use a sherry barrel past 2 uses. And this is a thing in Scotland, in that you can get first fill, which means that it was a sherry barrel and then they filled it for the first time with Scotch. Then it could be a second fill, which means that it's gone through 2 uses. It's made 2 batches of Scotch, and then it could go through a third. And usually by the time you get to that third, you're starting to run out of influence from the barrel. It becomes a very light influence. In fact, a lot of those barrels end up getting used as holding barrels for a whiskey that's probably aged enough and doesn't need to age any longer. So I'm thinking they're taking wet Oloroso sherry barrels and putting this whiskey into it, because that is dark. That is the darkest Scotch whiskey I have ever had. So even the color, even if they add in color, the darkest from Bowmore, I mean, that's got artificial color in it, and it's not to get it dark, and it's not this dark. So, wow. Just absolutely crazy. Oh. So, this is not the whiskey for everybody. I will definitely say that. If you are a sherry whiskey fan, of the likes of Glendronach and Abelauer and the rest, understand that those are a good representation of Oloroso sherry, but I think this almost tastes like that. This is really heavily influenced by Oloroso sherry. So on the nose, it brings a completely different kind of an experience to it. First time I put it to my nose, I was like, wow, mineral note. Where the heck is that coming from? And it took me a long time to work through the different scents that I was pulling out of this whiskey. A lot of dark notes, so you get a lot of plum raisin out of this for sure, but I think the star of the show on this is almonds. I mean, I swear I am at the Blue Diamond facility surrounded by almonds, because that is so strong on the nose. The minerality kind of takes me almost into like a rum cake kind of a territory. And there's a little bit of a orange marmalade, kind of a toasted bread meets orange marmalade underlying the entire thing. Now, Edradour is a very small distillery, as their website and the bottle says. Only 3 men work there, and it's been that way since 1825. Farm distillery, and so it is owned by Signatory, who is a independent bottler that is located in the same town, Pitlochry, that Edradour is. But apparently nobody's messed with the formula, from what's being told. Even Pernod Ricard, when they owned it, the French company, apparently they kept their hands off of doing anything crazy with it. They left this crazy almond scent in here. It is very different. And I'm telling you that you buy a bottle of this, be prepared to be challenged, because it will take you into a new direction for Scotch whiskies. A little warehouse in there also. What is that note? Well, it all surrounds that almond. All of it surrounds that almond. Cheers. It doesn't have a heavy mouthfeel to it, kind of a medium mouthfeel. Cocoa and raisins really stand out. Soft fruits coming in. I get dark chocolate. There's a little hint of bitter that comes in, but it is a cocoa, dark chocolate bitterness that comes in. And the berry is over the top. It is, again, raisins. I get, the berry is actually kind of a combination of red and black Twizzlers. It is really, really, really interesting, because I've never tasted both types of licorice in the same spirit before, but I am definitely tasting it in this. A little bit of oak notes in there, a slight bit of tannin, but that tannin, I think, is basically showing up in that bitter chocolate note that comes in on this whiskey. It is fascinating. It is just absolutely fascinating, from the moment you look at it to getting it in the glass to tasting it. Thank you, by the way. Proud to be an American. 43% ABV here. If you get this over in Scotland, apparently it's only 40 ABV. So very happy to have the slightly higher ABV on this particular whiskey. Whoever's making that decision, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, I think this would be potent at 40 as well. It's not a huge jump, but as I was chatting the other day with someone about the fact that John Campbell at Lefroy said he came over to America, tasted Lefroy 10 here at 43%, and it tasted significantly different from the Lefroy 10 that he tasted back home that was 40% ABV. So just those small amounts can make a big difference in a spirit. Have you had Edradour? What do you think of it? Have you had any of their other expressions? It's a very small distillery, so there's not a lot of this juice around. But if you can find it, and if you like almonds and you like experimenting a bit with your Scotch whiskies, this is definitely one that is worth getting to your palate and your nose, because it will definitely challenge you. It challenged me. It took me a little while to really settle in on this and decide what I wanted to promote about this particular whiskey in terms of flavor and scent. And like I say, almond really stands out. It reminds me of the first time that I tasted Amontillado, and I was like, wow, I expected this to be fruity, and it's all almonds. Well, the almonds are definitely heavy in this particular one. Give me a like if you enjoyed today's video, and subscribe, please. We'd love to have you along. Until next time, cheers and Slainte. Plum pudding.